So we're outside the Caravan Cafe at Notre-Dame. Actually, it's not Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, it's Côte-des-Neiges. It's near the Côte-des-Neiges Metro, and I'm just doing a little protest against the fact that Sue Montgomery, the candidate for mayor for Côte-des-Neiges and Notre-Dame-de-Grâce Borough for Projet Montréal, is basically totally complicit in her religious community's immoral and unethical and borderline criminal and, I don't mind saying batshit crazy, attempted misuse of Canada's blasphemy law in clergy, sex abuse, cover-up and denial legal bullying, which seeks to conceal such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers. If I can quote two sentences from the cease and desist demand letters that the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney, Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors Litigation Lawyer, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe, had me served with in June of 2012. Yes, that goes back a bit over 5 years. But Sue has known about that and refused to report on it in her capacity as the Gazette's Justice. Hey, look who's here! Exercising my constitutionally guaranteed civil rights and freedoms. I'm protesting against Sue's complicity in clergy abuse, cover-up and denial.
You're protesting what?
You know the story. I sent you emails about this.
Not with Sue again.
Yes, Sue.
Robin,
absolutely.
You can't run the story because it's absolutely actionable.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Everything's totally true.
Truth doesn't matter in defamation. You have to have the proof. You don't
I have
it.
the proof.
No, it's not proof. I've read the stuff.
What do I need to prove?
Well, if she hasn't sued yet, you're lucky.
No, but what do I need to? No, I'm not lucky. She cannot win. I've checked the libel law.
A lot of it is hearsay, conjecture. She said she supposedly was at a certain meeting. It's not enough.
What do you mean supposedly at a certain meeting?
She was supposed. I got to get in there.
Anyway, no, believe me, everything I've got. You get a reporter to talk to me.
Robin,
it's not actionable. She would have sued by now if it was actionable. She threatened to sue me 2 years and 11 months ago. It's not actionable.
You haven't published it anywhere.
What?
You haven't published it anywhere.
Well, on my blog, I published it.
That's not enough to be actionable. I mean, it is.
Well, she sent me. She had. Probably it was the Gazette. Actually, I have a feeling the Gazette was behind that. But anyway, there is that bigger story of the.
This story, they're gonna take a picture of the two of you. That's
what? What?
The story, they'll take a picture of the two of you. That should be something.
No, but there's also the bigger story of the Unitarian Universalists accusing me of violating Canada's blasphemy law. That, yeah, I think that one ought to be published. So that was Beryl Wiseman from the Suburban. I'm glad we got that recorded. I've been trying to get Beryl Wiseman to report on the Unitarian Universalist Association's false blasphemous libel accusation against me for quite some time now. And he initially seemed interested, but, basically never assigned a reporter. I've sent him, a fair bit of material about that. And when it came to my attention that Sue Montgomery was seeking to be the mayoralty candidate for Projet Montréal back in June, I brought it to Beryl Wiseman's attention that Sue Montgomery was actually complicit in this, that she, was guilty of complicit silence at minimum in terms of never speaking out against that attempted misuse of blasphemy law to hide pedophilia and rape, to say nothing of the various other injustices and abuses and hypocrisy that I've been protesting against outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal for quite some time now. Sue, in her capacity as the Gazette's Justice reporter, repeatedly refused to publish newsworthy stories about justice issues that I was protesting outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal. But on top of that, as a member of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, Sue colluded with various other members of the church, including the minister, Reverend Diane Rollert, to make highly questionable depositions to the police, claiming to be very, very frightened of me and afraid for their personal safety and so on and so forth, to obtain a restraining order against me. And as far as I'm concerned, this is an anti-democratic misuse of the criminal justice system, which basically via pretending to be very, very frightened of me and in fear for their safety was a way of trying to shut down my protest outside the church, because the restraining order they were seeking was only in terms of the church. You know, you'd think if they were really afraid for their personal safety and so on, the minister and these other church members, you know, that they maybe want a restraining order that pertained to their houses and their places of work and so on, you know, if they thought I was going to come after them kind of thing. But no, it was just about the church. It was just about shutting down my protest in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. And in their minds, they thought they could have it permanently shut down if they obtained a restraining order. I contested the restraining order, and unfortunately got one of the worst judges in Quebec presiding over the hearings. And this judge did not allow me to properly cross-examine the witness. In this case, it was just Reverend Diane Rowlett was the only witness. There were no other witnesses. And essentially, you know, Reverend Diane Rowlett claimed to be very, very frightened of me and fearing for her personal safety and so on and so forth, even though I'd never made anything that could be reasonably considered to be a threat against her safety or anything like that. And, you know, when I tried to cross-examine her testimony, every time I tried to get to the truth, you know, which was that either her fears were quite irrational or she was just lying, the judge shut me down. She prevented me from fully cross-examining Reverend Diane Rowlett. In fact, she basically prevented me from cross-examining her at all, basically taking all of her testimony at face value without any questioning of it. So the restraining order was granted. It was for 1 year. I did want to appeal it. Unfortunately, when it came down, it was in the middle of the summer, and basically the lawyers were all on vacation, and I couldn't get a lawyer quick enough. So I decided, oh, what the heck, you know, I'll take a 1 year vacation, and I'll come back after the year's over and see what happens. And so that's what I did. I basically honored the restraining order, even though I believed it was completely unfounded. It didn't have any real, you know, validity to it. I mean, it was legally valid, but what I'm saying is there was no real reason for it. You know, I'd never posed any kind of threat to the physical safety of Montreal Unitarians. On the contrary, I'd been assaulted a few times by Montreal Unitarians. So anyhow, I came back at the end of the year of the restraining order and resumed my protest in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. And the very first Sunday that I resumed my protest, Reverend Diane Rowlett walked out of the church pretty well alone, walked to within 3 or so feet of me and said, you know, Robin, you're not allowed to be here. You have no right to be here, this kind of thing. Didn't seem remotely afraid of me, didn't seem slightly afraid of me. You'd think if she was really afraid of me, she could have sent out someone else to deliver that message, or she could have come with 2 or 3, you know, bodyguards, as it were. But she did no such thing. She came out alone, walked up very close to me and said I had no right to be there, which is a clear indication that she really was not very frightened of me at all, and therefore lied to get the restraining order. And I just said, well, no, I don't think so. I think I have every right to be here, and if you want to try getting another restraining order, you know, go be my guest, try doing that, you know. And of course, that's what she and other church members did. There was quite a lot of police harassment and intimidation following my return to the scene of the crime, as it were. But I was able to deal with it, and one detective threatened me with arrest related to the restraining order, and basically made some foolish statements in threatening me with arrest. So I took him in front of the Police Ethics Commission, and he got rapped on his knuckles for that. And basically, the police intimidation and harassment diminished, but didn't end, and it continued through 2012 and 2013. and we got Russell Copeland up there. Anyhow, the upshot is that Sue Montgomery was actively, a participant in this in terms of writing a deposition to the police. When I was falsely accused of blasphemous libel in 2012, I saw Sue in December, it was actually December 6th. It was the Day Against Violence Against Women that's held every December 6th on the date of the Marc Lépin's massacre at the Polytechnique School. And there was a vigil outside the Palais de Justice. I was documenting that vigil in photos. Good day, bonjour. In photos and video. And Sue Montgomery showed up to report on it for the Gazette. So when I saw her, and I had my camera running, and I said, "Hey, Sue, I got a story for you." I said, your religious community is falsely accusing me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel in an effort to hide pedophilia and rape, and I think you should report that story as the justice reporter. And of course she refused. So that's one more occasion, and perhaps one of the worst occasions, where Sue Montgomery refused to report on a serious justice issue related to the Unitarian Universalist religious community, of which she's a member. And then in 2014, when she started her Being Raped Never Reported hashtag campaign, setting herself up as the great champion of rape victims and so on, even though she turned a blind eye to pedophilia and rape in her own religious community and the attempts to cover up and hide pedophilia and rape by falsely accusing me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel, essentially blaspheming against the Unitarian Universalist Church. Well, Sue, I thought, you know what, Sue, you're a hypocrite. I'm going to protest your, failure to report on, pedophilia and rape in your religious community and the attempts to cover it up. So I made a picket sign like this one. This one's an updated version, somewhat more accurate. And I protested in front of a fundraising event that Sue was holding in the Tulip, and I was outside La Tulip protesting with a sign similar to this one and some other signs about the Unitarian Universalist religious community's misuse of blasphemy law to hide pedophilia and rape and so on. And a bailiff walked up to me and handed me a demand letter written by Mark Banty of Gowling, Henderson, Lafleur. Mark Banty is basically a media lawyer. He normally works for institutions, like the Gazette, representing them, when they need to, or want to, get a publication ban overturned and that sort of thing. And so this was a lawyer who normally worked for the Gazette, rather than individuals. So I have reasons to suspect that maybe the Gazette actually was behind that cease and desist demand letter on behalf of Sue, although it was basically all in the name of Sue Montgomery. And then essentially Sue threatened to sue me for libel for telling the truth about her, essentially. All of the statements that were described as being libelous were nothing of the sort. They were very truthful. They were supported by evidence. They were, not libelous at all, really. So I just basically told the lawyer to buzz off and told him I had no intention of removing blog posts, tweets, and videos and so on about Sue Montgomery's complicity in Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse, cover-up, and denial, and so on. And I never heard from him again. He heard from me a few more times because I made it very, very clear that I expect him and Sue Montgomery to formally withdraw their false libel accusation against me, and they haven't done so. So in fact, I will probably be sending him another email pretty soon to remind him that until such a time as he and Sue Montgomery formally withdraw their false libel accusation against me, that I will be considering them to still be accusing me and will be governing myself accordingly. So anyhow, it's getting lighter here. It was quite dark earlier, but it's still gray and rainy, but not nearly as dark as it was earlier. And we'll stick around here for a little while yet. Basically, it was good to see Beryl Wiseman of the Suburban, and it's very unfortunate that he's claiming that they can't publish my story about Sue Montgomery's complicity in clergy abuse cover-up and her false libel accusation against me, saying that it's actionable, basically saying that he's afraid of being sued for libel, or the Suburban's afraid of being sued for libel if they report the story, which is, as far as I'm concerned, ridiculous, because if he knew anything about libel law and he knew anything about the actual facts, you know, I've actually sent them plenty of information proving, you know, that what I'm saying about Sue is true, and I can provide more. I can provide absolute proof. You know, I can show him, you know, a deposition that Sue made in terms of the restraining order I was talking about earlier. So I have absolute proof that Sue was involved in this cynical effort to get a restraining order against me by Unitarians claiming to be very, very frightened of me in an effort to shut down my protest in front of the church. I have proof of my asking her to report on the story. So there we are.